something flopped in that bucket. Being that it's late October and Halloween is here, I thought I would share with you guys one of the scariest stories that has happened to me within the aquarium hobby. It was about 6, 7, maybe a little bit more years ago that I rescued an alligator gar, and I've actually told this story before. Basically, an alligator gar was dropped off at a pet store that was located a few hours away. It ended up in my hands for a couple of reasons. Within my area at the time, I was one of the people with a large freshwater aquarium. They were not that common then. They simply were not sold locally. You either had to build or custom order them in, etc., which was extremely expensive. For me, I was building them, and at that time I had a 240-gallon plywood aquarium, and everybody knew it. So it made sense for people to say, hey, why doesn't Joey just rescue it? At the time, I thought it was a good idea as well. I thought it was the right thing to do. So after a couple of days of finding someone to bring it to me, we actually ended up arranging a time and date. I had to leave work to go and do this, but I did receive the alligator gar one night. My first mistake was not having a large enough quarantine tank to monitor this fish in. I actually had to take the fish and pretty much just add it to my main display tank. That was my first mistake, but not the biggest. Hey, what do you think? Think we should go outside to finish this story? It is a bit chilly out here, but it will make a lot more sense why I'm out here in a moment. So once the fish was in my tank, it wasn't long before it started eating, and it acclimated nicely. It seemed like everything was gonna be okay. Until one night. Oh, I should also add that this tank was actually in my bedroom, meaning that this tank, this 240-gallon tank, was only feet away from my bed, which at the time wasn't a big deal. The inhabitants at the time were a couple of silver arowanas and a couple of Motoro freshwater stingrays. And that was it. So one night, I was obviously sleeping, and then I heard some real bad thrashing from the aquarium, coming from the aquarium, obviously. And I looked around, and actually I didn't look around. I turned the lights on to the bedroom, and I realized that the alligator gar was attacking my arowana. And these were just silver arowana, but they were wild caught, and they were a little bit more expensive than you would typically pay for a silver arowana. The alligator gar had one of the arowana in its mouth like a dog bone. It was literally swimming through the water like a dog with a big bone in its mouth. It did get to spit the silver arowana out, but the damage was pretty bad, and the fish didn't end up surviving from that. It wasn't long after that I also found the second silver arowana lying dead outside the tank because the lids were slightly opened and the gar probably scared it out of the tank. So at that point, I was down 2 silver arowanas. Well, I believe that's the order in which it happened. This was, again, 7 years ago at least, so, it's not something that I try to remember, but it is what it is. So, again, at this point, I'm looking for somebody to take this fish. It's killing my fish. It's causing me a problem. It's going to be 8-10 feet long, however long this is going to grow. I'm not going to be able to care for this fish long term. It's going to cost me thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars to build an aquarium, thousands and thousands of gallons to house this fish, and then the ongoing costs of hundreds of dollars per month. All for what? This isn't my hobby. This isn't the hobby that I wanted. I didn't want to have this fish. So again, I'm looking for somebody to take it, somebody to do something with it. And I was even, actually, I'll tell you what happened next. So one night, again, this happened at nighttime, and there were moonlights in the tank, and there was a nightlight in the room, so this wasn't a completely dark room where the fish could just completely freak out. I'm sleeping again, and my wife is in the room, and this is really bad because when these things happen and your significant other is around to experience it, it makes it really hard to be able to be allowed to continue in this hobby. But we're sleeping there, and we hear a loud smash. And this time it was a smash, not splashing water or anything, or commotion. This was a smash. We both wake up, and there's glass everywhere, and the alligator gar is dead on the floor. It smashed through the lids of the tank. These were really heavy duty lids. When you look at your aquarium lids, they might be glass, and if they are, chances are they're only maybe 2 millimeters thick. Not a lot of money goes into those lids. Perhaps you have acrylic lids, and those are definitely much more durable, but these were 6 millimeter thick. What a 30-gallon tank is made out of, a 33-gallon aquarium are typically all made out of that, and most 55 gallons for that matter. And the alligator gar smashed directly through it. And from what I could tell, it was dead on the ground. It was late at night. I decided I'm going to clean out the glass from the tank. Luckily, it didn't kill the rays or hurt the rays in any way. And I took the gar, which was still apparently dead, and threw it in an empty bucket. It had no water in that bucket. It was just an empty bucket. I figured I'll deal with this guy tomorrow. I can't flush him. I got to find some way to dispose of him. It's 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I got to be to work tomorrow. I put him in a bucket, put him outside. Actually, it was just a bucket much like this one. Just your plain average bucket. Nothing special to it. The next morning I wake up and I forget all about the the gar being outside, but I do remember what happened. I'm on my way to work and I get outside, I close the door. This is basically what it sounded like. Get outside of my house, close the door, and I hear this. Okay, that's me kicking a bucket. But what I heard was something flopped in that bucket. Mind you, we're outside in late October, and at nighttime it's dropping down towards the zeros, meaning that the freezing point in Celsius. I'm not in Fahrenheit. Which means that nothing should really be surviving out here in the nighttime, let alone a tropical fish. But one thing you don't know about gars, or that you might not know about gars, is that they can survive out of water for sometimes extended period of time. They're an extremely durable fish. They're not a prehistoric fish and have survived millions of years for no reason. I looked in the bucket and it's still alive. It's breathing. It's looks like it's doing just fine. It just doesn't want to be in a bucket. It wants to be in some water. I rush it in the house. I fill up a big Rubbermaid tote container, which is about 50 gallons, and chuck the gar in it. Mind you, this is a 2-foot long gar. This is a large fish. And then it acts like nothing's happening. It was shortly after that I found a home for it. I believe 2 days later I found a home for it. A gentleman locally got it and then shipped it out west somewhere where a person, I don't really know the rest of the story. And this experience for me made me realize that tanks are really not built to withstand impacts of large fish. Nowadays though, I don't do anything the way I used to. For example, for my lids, I'm only using these polycarbonate lids. There's no fish that's going to be able to break through those. I guess with everything that happens within your hobby, you can use it as a learning lesson. So that has been my horror story for October and as well as Halloween. I guess I kind of wanted to go with the theme of Halloween. Although that has actually not been my biggest disaster. I've had worse, and perhaps one day I'll tell you about them. But for now, I'd really like to hear about your guys' disasters or mishaps or anything that has happened to you. So let me know in the comments section below. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you guys next week for a new topic of the week.